Hey guys, what's up? It's Zadie. I'm actually going to see Spider-Man Homecoming right now. It's so exciting. I'm so hyped for it. You guys, I'm at the theater right now, and look at that! Look at that! It's amazing!
So grab a 50-cent frosty.
That was so awesome!
Let's go!
That was such an awesome movie. I can't believe I went to go see that. That was so great.
What's up guys, it's Zadie! Welcome to Flytte Kartina! That's Flytte like the hummingbird and then Kartina like the, not Flytte Katrina or whatever's popping up in the search bar. Now that confusion's all cleared up, let's get to the actual point of this video. Spider-Man Homecoming. As you can tell, I'm kind of really excited about this movie review and it's gonna be really awesome. So I got to see it and I gotta say it was pretty sweet. Lots of stuff in there, but let's see what we're gonna cover in the next 8 minutes. In the first half, we have the amazing non-spoiler review, basically explaining the rating of the movie and then if I'd recommend it or not. At the very end, we'll have my magical scale of movies, which is amazing. You guys should totally stay out for that. And then in the second half is completely and totally devoted to the amazing and spectacular spoiler rant, where I rant about spoilers. So let's get to it. First of all, the movie was rated PG-13. For those of you who know about the rating system that the MPAA has, PG-13 means that if you're over 13, you'll be okay-ish. It was rated PG-13 for sci-fi action, violence, some language, and brief suggestive comments. So allow me to explain these things in full swing. For the sci-fi action, it's pretty self-explanatory. This is a superhero movie, meaning that there's going to be action involving sci-fi stuff, a lot of technological stuff going on, and there's going to be a lot of action. It's pretty self-explanatory in the trailers. For the violence, I know that there's a lot of just scenes where it's intense and you know that something bad is going to happen, but in the back of your mind you know that it's going to be okay, but still in the moment you are pretty into it and you know it's going to resort to violence. For the language part, I was actually really surprised at how much of the language there was in the movie. Granted, this is a superhero movie, so they might curse a lot, and I know high schoolers curse a lot because that's just the way the culture is right now. The brief suggestive comments, I know that kids want to see this movie and it's a really great movie. The most part I'm worried about if kids go and see it is the language portion, but the suggestive content is exactly what it says. It's brief, so it's not really there. It's gonna fly over their heads. I'm just saying to parents out there, if you want to bring your kid, you just have to be worried about the language. That's pretty much all that you really need to look out for. Now that I've explained a little bit of why they rated this movie PG-13, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the frequency chart and we're gonna rate this according to the frequency of everything that happened. And I'm gonna say that the language was involved a lot in this rating on the frequency chart, and that is the heaviest weight that involves this. On the frequency chart for the language, the violence, the sci-fi action, and the suggestive content, it's going to be a 7.5 or 8. Again, the language was a huge part of this rating, so don't look at that number and say, you know what, we're not going. Next is whether I'd recommend this movie or not, and I would say yes. I do recommend it, just be cautious on what you're getting into. If you really, really want to go see it, and like I did, I'm not holding you back from anything, I'm just saying be careful. With this movie, I just noticed a lot of stuff happening that I didn't always agree with, that it could have been omitted. They could have made this movie a PG movie, but it's, Marvel did what they wanted to do. Lastly, I have my magical scale of movies on a scale of Steamboat Willie to Deadpool. How appropriate is this movie for kids? Which is a solid 7. You guys don't know what that is? That's why I'm gonna tell you. 7 on the chart is Iron Man. Basically, because of just all the language that was in there, it's only a 7 because of that. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching my non-spoiler review of Spider-Man Homecoming. I really hope you guys stay for the spoiler rant part. It's probably the most fun that I have during this video, but anyways, I will see you guys in the future. Next week is going to be pretty crazy for me, so I don't know if I'm going to get a video out, but let's see what happens. Bye! Welcome you guys to the amazing spoiler rant that I have prepared for you. Let's get started with what I have to say about the actors. Don't panic, it's not going to be super boring, I promise. So let's get started with the main characters and then a few side characters that I just added along because they were fun. Honorable mention goes out to Donald Glover. He was awesome in that movie, I loved him. Anyways, let's go down the list. So Tom Holland played Peter Parker. We already saw him in Civil War, so he's pretty awesome. He can do some flips, he can do a lot of stuff. You've seen the training videos, right? Next we have Zendaya, who's been trying to get into movies for a little bit, and she's playing Michelle. As my friend said as we were watching the movie in the theater and probably bothering the other people in front of us, Michelle is basically the Edgemaster. Next is Jacob Batala. I'm pretty sure I said his name wrong, I'm so sorry. Anyways, he's Filipino, so that was kind of crazy for me to see. He played Ned Leeds. Ned actually in the comics is kind of older. He's not exactly high school age. In the comics, he is a reporter for the Daily Bugle, and he's, with Peter Parker in that respect, but he has not made a high school appearance. We have Laura Harrier playing Elizabeth Allen. She is frequently in the Spider-Man comics. It's just layers upon layers of her character. I don't think we've seen her on the big screen yet, unless you count, Spectacular Spider-Man. To round up the list of high schoolers, we have Tony Revolori as Flash Thompson. So this was kind of a problem. I'm pretty sure everybody is used to seeing Flash Thompson as a bodybuilder jock sort of guy who's usually really tall and hulking, and most of the time he's Caucasian, but they made it a little bit different for this because it's a science school from what I understood of the movie, and so there's really no place for a jock there that much. We did see like a football stadium in the movie, but I'm not sure if that kind of translates that they play football. I don't know what's going on with that, but he's not the typical jock that you see. I wasn't disappointed in what they did with Flash Thompson, I was just surprised. I didn't know that was coming, so you can see my angst. And the school was actually really diverse, so it made sense that he wasn't primarily Caucasian, but still, it was just weird for me to see Flash in a different light this time. It's fine, totally fine. Please don't sue me, Marvel. So as we're going down the list, Michael Keaton was there as the Vulture, which I was super hyped about it. I loved him in Beetlejuice. It was amazing and spectacular. I loved it. He's a really great actor. I think he really took on Vulture. He made him really solid and stuff. Lastly on the list of the cast that I really wanted to introduce was Robert Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow were there at the very end of the movie, and I was screaming my head off. Silently, of course, but it's still screaming. So apparently her and Tony are back together. Something's going on. We'll probably find out in Infinity War or something. So that's the cast and the characters, but let's move on to the plot of the story. The thing is with this movie, I didn't think this movie had a plot. Really. Sorry. See, the thing is, it's like a bunch of ups and downs, a bunch of lows and a bunch of highs, and then all these emotions running through and like all these questions coming up in my head. It was just really confusing for me the first time around. But then I realized the directors did that on purpose. Okay, so hear me out. High school is a bunch of ups and downs. With Spider-Man, they were trying to make a high school movie, not a superhero movie. You don't know what information makes sense or not, and you're not sure where everything's gonna go and how everything's gonna turn out. And that's basically what high school is, what it is to be in high school. You don't see the big picture until the very end. I think that was a great idea. Okay, so what I liked about this movie was a lot of things. I already told you about the plot. I loved Marissa Tomei as Aunt May. I kind of appreciated them putting Happy into Peter Parker's life. That was really interesting. I think it was spectacular of them to do that. It really swung Happy into the Marvel Universe in a place other than Iron Man's driver. One last thing that I really liked that was really important to Spider-Man. You remember that scene where Vulture literally dropped a building on top of Peter? He's under all of this weight and these cinder blocks and metal. I think that was symbolizing something. But anyways, he's screaming for help and it's the most painful scene ever. But then he looks at himself in the reflection of the water, which is totally fake, by the way. He's reminded of what Tony said.
I'm gonna need a suit back.
But I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing about this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
He tells himself, "You can do this, Spider-Man. Come on, Spider-Man." And he's yelling and screaming and he's literally lifting a building and then doesn't get a break for another 15, 20, 30 minutes. But him screaming to himself that he can do it as Spider-Man and he's lifting the building off of himself. What I was thinking is he's taking on the responsibility of being Spider-Man. He's taking up the mantle of being Spider-Man. He's not thinking of just being an Avenger. He's thinking about being Spider-Man and what Spider-Man represents. The building symbolizes the mantle of Spider-Man, but he's finally accepting the quote that Uncle Ben probably would have told him. Great power comes great responsibility. That responsibility is equaling his power. And so as he's lifting the building, he's taking on that responsibility. Do you see? Now that I've just tired myself out talking about great power comes great responsibility, I'm gonna, tire myself more out by talking about what I didn't like about the movie. Please don't sue me for the things that I'm gonna say, just it's me speaking. One thing I didn't like about Spider-Man was Vulture's crew. Basically, they were all kind of one-dimensional. The way that they acted, it wasn't very good. Please do not sue me. One other thing that I didn't like was the basically Iron Man first-person view that we were looking at. But I understand that the suit was designed by Tony Stark, who is Iron Man, by the way, if you didn't know. He's used to a certain number of trademarks on his suit, and so it made sense to know that Peter has the same suit and vision that Iron Man has, because Iron Man made the suit. But I still didn't like it that much. It wasn't that great. I would say that, they could have gone without it, but it made sense in the end, so I'm not too unhappy about it. Marvel did an amazing and spectacular job of doing this movie. I think it's a really good standalone movie. I believe that Spider-Man could be a great thing in the end. But that's all I have. I have one question for you guys before you leave, and that is, what would you name your suit lady? Peter named his suit Karen. If you had a suit lady, what would her name be? I just want to know. Comment that down in the comments below. Thank you so much for staying this long. I really appreciated it. I love this movie. Thank you so much for coming, and I will see you later. What are you still doing here? It's late. Go to bed.